I just wanted to take everybody through, obviously you're standing in Omega Boutique, so a little discussion of James Bond and luxury brands, and please, I beg of you, because there's not a ton of people. First of all, if you need a new drink, get one. It'll help the discussion a lot. For you. And please ask questions. Nothing is off bounds, and I'll give you a little bit of my background so you kind of know where to shape those questions. But we are going to be talking about bonding with luxury. And the first thing I'll do is kind of like a quick introduction, if this works. Maybe it doesn't. Oh, there we go. So what do I do for a living? Why am I even up here? Why has Omega asked me to come in today? So my occupation is I'm a president of a pharmaceutical advertising agency. What the heck is that? So when they do commercials, when two people are sitting in a bathtub for Cialis, that's what my company does. In fact, we've worked on things like that and other things. But where I become very fascinated with luxury brands and James Bond is kind of the marketing around it, because it is my background, it's what I do for a living. And as I look kind of across the board, there's a few people of you who have been wrapped in marketing, whether you want to know it or not, because you're wearing a watch. And oh, come on in.
Hi.
Please help yourselves to some food and nosh.
So we just have some pepperonis with mozzarella, as well as salami and prosciutto with grapes. We have cheese and crackers coming out as well, so I apologize for the lateness of getting the food out, but I will let you proceed, and I'll just meander with the food.
Please, meander away. But one of the things that it's nice is when you have the opportunity to have your job meet your hobby. And the reality is that getting into marketing created this thing that some of you may know called the Bond Experience. That is really vain, and I get it. So I'm just going to like poke myself right now. Poke myself amongst Bond. And as you can see me in real life, I'm a lot shorter than that poster. Sean Connery's like 6'3", and I'm not. But the reality is it's nice when you can have a moment. And that's what this discussion is about. It's about creating moments. And whether you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, if we're into James Bond, and we have this connection even with Omega, you're trying to capture a bit of an impact moment. And that's really where the Bond experience came from. Years ago, I was trying to find a creative outlet. And I knew that I liked James Bond. I knew that I liked video because of my marketing background. And there was this wild thing called the internet, which everybody said was going to catch on. Who knew? So I started to post some things on YouTube. I started with a couple of what we call now vlogs, video vlogs. And lo and behold, this world opened up of connecting with other people, which is why we have some people like this gentleman Kyle from Long Island, people reaching out across the globe to connect, which is why we're standing in a semicircle today. However, there was a beginning to all this. And this is going to drive me crazy. So we've got Sean Connery, don't we? And even before Sean Connery, we obviously had Ian Fleming writing these books. Now, you can't have a conversation around brand and luxury and clothing and watches without talking about Ian Fleming, because Ian Fleming, if he was local to King of Prussia, would probably be standing right here. He was a bit of a dandy himself. He liked fashion, he liked clothes, he loved the Rolex watch. But the reality is, in his books, he always focused on what the bad guys were wearing. Not so much what Bond was wearing, but what the bad guys were wearing. And one of the things, in the 1960s, nobody stood a chance. So we're here, 2016, heading up to 2017, thinking that there's a lot of marketing. You've got Heineken, you're drinking it. You've got Coca-Cola, you've got Omega, you've got all these things in the movies. Back then, people didn't stand a chance because you would walk into a Sears, and no matter what your age, you were greeted by different things that you can buy as James Bond. So blame it on the 60s. Don't blame it on anything else. Don't say that we've become more marketing focused today. Blame it on the 60s, because even in the 60s, they knew that people wanted to capture that Bond moment. And what was it about it? Now, I'm going to sound extremely misogynistic, but I am on film. and my wife is right here, so I'm going to be very careful. There's a lot about Bond that you want to capture. It is the gadgets. It's the excitement. It's for 2.5 hours you're removing yourself from the doldrum world that we live in. It's the women. See, I kept it very short. It's the women. It is the fact that he travels globally and he's always winning. But let's face it, it is also about the fact that Bond always feels good and he looks good no matter what the situation. So, all of us own this. It was that first opportunity to really own a piece of Bond. And now, as I look across even the canvas of people that are listening to this today, we maybe have some more foldable income. Maybe we take birthday money and we put it to things bigger than this. Because he's cool. And we want to capture those particular moments. Now, let me tell you a quick little thing that may affect all of you, and that is fathers, mothers, parents. So the reason I got into Bond, it's a psychiatrist story, was because I had a father, passed away now, who, he was not the type of guy to go into the backyard and play ball with me. He just didn't do it. He loved sports, but he would watch them. He was smoking his pipe. He was like typical kind of 1960s, 1970s father. Very successful businessman, entrepreneur. So hats off to him. Not a lot of time spent with me, weep, weep. But the reality is the time that he spent with me was waking me up and sneaking me in to the bedroom while my mom was asleep to watch James Bond. So all of us have their story, even their psychiatry story of why they're into James Bond, why this passion of luxury and brand meets James Bond. Mine is right there in the psychiatry patch. It's because of my father. And a lot of you may have that same story. It creates this very nostalgic moment. Nostalgia, this is my one educational piece for the day, and then you can forget it, actually. Nostalgia is a very powerful thing. When you smell brownies and home-baked cookies, the reason you start to salivate is not just because of the taste, it's a memory that's evoked. I've been into this Omega Boutique probably 10 times. I've hugged Michael 14 times. We've had off-hour stuff. Now we're talking about. But the reality is even an experience like this, it brings back a memory. It evokes either something very positive or something negative, and happily, James Bond is something positive. This is where the positive meets the negative. This is a part of my collection. So the other thing you need to know about me is, besides doing the Bond experience and my day job as president of an advertising company, is I collect movie memorabilia. And again, this is the most patient, sainted person in the world. The entire basement of my house, which is the footprint of my house, is a James Bond museum, right here in Pennsylvania, where every single James Bond movie is represented by its own spot. And I mean a spot this big. That's one movie, would be this wall. Posters, props, gadgets, wardrobe. And I don't know, for you eagle-eyed people out there, I'm wearing a head-to-toe James Bond Moroccan Spectre outfit. Yeah, I'm that type of geek. But the reality is that the passion has kind of taken over, and now I can start sharing that with other people. What I loved about it, what got me into prop collecting, what may make you get that Harrington or those sneakers that Daniel Craig wore the other day, right, I noticed, is that you can wear these in the wild. You can walk down the street, or you can walk to a class or a store. People will not know those are Daniel Craig shoes. People won't know all the time that this is the Spectre watch. It is that secret, inclusive, and a little bit exclusive moment that during your day, a lot of stress, a lot of headaches, you can escape for a moment, and you've got a secret. Things like this, you know, a lot of you I'm sure recognized this before. They were very smart in the Bond movies. They took regular lifestyle tools, things that you would see every day, and they made them into gadgets because they knew that it was part of our passion, part of what we did. This was actually all of these things up here that I brought today, which I know always shock people. You can touch. You can take a picture with, you can take out, you can hold. I'll build the golden gun. If you want your picture with the golden gun, take a picture with the golden gun. This is a touch museum just without a lot of kids. And even screen use things. So this is Daniel Craig's outfit from Casino Royale. This is the bad guy that he fights in that same scene. So it has different levels. So even when you purchase a watch, there is a lot of people who talk to me about what I call the frugal bond. These are opportunities for everybody, no matter what your income is, to capture a bond moment. What I usually tell them is, and this is going to sound very shillish, but I don't mean it like this, is, for example, an Omega has a certain quality to it. Save up. If you want that Omega, save up for the Omega, as opposed to buying 10 inferior watches. It's all about math and process. All right. So that's me having a very sullen moment. But it's kind of getting ourselves to a little point in the events, the atmosphere. One of the best things about sharing bond is this. And look, we don't have 500 people in this room. You wouldn't want it. But the connectivity, the people that you meet, you know, even the acknowledgement, I keep referring to it, even the acknowledgement that other people are kind of living this bond lifestyle, and it's an enhancement, it's not something negative, it's actually real people. So here's me with my son going to the Omega event that we talked about, the Spectre premiere. It's those impact moments, it's living kind of like bond, one moment at a time. It is about the experience. And I'm going to stay on this for a moment because Michael Mance, who's hosting this today, had a moment before everybody came. And it really was, are we creating the right experience? Is this the right discussion, the champagne, the Heineken, etc.? These types of experiences you'll take away. The reason you do is because when you were a child, you learned everything that you know from stories. Everybody learns from stories. Think about Grimm fairy tales. So when you walk into a store like this, you could either have a very positive story, or you could have a really negative story. So Michael, for example, is a character of the Omega story. And Bond, they've done it very smart. I told you there'd be vanity moments. This is Tom Ford in London. When you walk into a Tom Ford store, you don't walk into a Tom Ford store and start sweeping through the racks. And by the way, it costs $0 to walk into a Tom Ford store and stop. But the experience that you walk away with is worth a lot. Because the first thing they'll do is they'll come up to you and they'll say, Mr. Zaritsky, what would you like? Would you like a Macallan single malt 12, a 16? Would you like champagne? Can I get you sparkling water? Would you like a little stink? What would you like? And they will actually surround you with the most positive experience. You don't need to walk out of there with $1. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you to share that experience out as much as possible. All of this is about an exclusive and inclusive moment. What I mean by exclusive is that whole idea of I can walk up to you and go, oh, nice Omega. Kind of do the Omega bump or whatever people do. But it's that inclusion of being inside of a community or a family. Speaking of, this is a very motley crew, but this is a group that I met over in London that this gentleman right here, for example, will take a look at a James Bond movie and he will figure out what an item is used by a zipper. I kid you not. This guy will look at a zipper and say, oh, Brunello Cucinelli used that. So the hunting, the detective work, I see fingers pointing everywhere. It is an amazing amount of detective work. And when something is found, there's this great resonance that happens amongst these collectors. And they get us every time. Because this is here. And I guarantee when we walked up and saw that, we were compelled. Now, we got to talk about this guy for a moment. Omega and other brands, Heineken, Coca-Cola, they're very smart because they use not only James Bond, but Daniel Craig, other spokesmen, and obviously Omega has a lot of spokespeople. You can walk around the store and see who they are on the wall. They certainly got me. This was my birthday gift, surprise, from my wife when we were actually going to the premiere. So I was a sucker. This was in the airport. And talk about spontaneity, talk about a last-minute type thing. But there's something, here's the big aha in all this. There's something new happening. The loyalty and advocacy, like all of us being fans of James Bond, is changing. Because these types of brands, whether it's Heineken or Belvedere or Coke Zero or even people that sell the James Bond shoes. And by the way, look at this. Well, if they're good enough for James Bond, right? They're starting to use you. they're starting to use you. They're starting to use you. And so what's happening is, you don't need to, it's Saturday you're drinking, you don't need to remember this term. Word of mouth. Influencer marketing is becoming huge. And I promise you, when you leave today, for any of you that were taking pictures or video, this is exactly what brands count on. We're doing a vlog right now. Usually our vlogs get anywhere from 15,000 to 45,000 views. This is a wonderful organic moment. But that is the future, whether it's Omega or any of these brands. So you can either pay Joe Namath $50 million, or you can send a bracelet or a t-shirt to Dean. And Dean's going to go on his crazy monster Instagram and share it with everybody. And by the way, 10, 15 people will buy it. But it's worth that one company spending that money. So why are these pictures up here? I wanted to show you how real this is, because it's crazy, and it shouldn't be like this, but it is. So N. Peel, which is a sweater company that's done sweaters for James Bond, for Skyfall and Spectre. Billy Reed, who did his jackets for Skyfall. Oliver Brown, who did bathing suits, and I'm sure you've heard of Oliver Brown. And even Sunspell, who's done, ready for this? Polo for Casino Royale, underwear for Spectre. Who knew? I'm sorry to get into marketing, but it's fascinating. This is also pretty neat. So here we have YouTube, we have the Bond Experience. 8,000 subscribers. That's not a lot. That's nothing. There are people with like tens of millions of subscribers on YouTube. What's interesting is all of these brands, and Heineken and Coke, who invited us to the premiere, they go into here and they can do something called Google Analytics, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. When they analyze these 8,000 subscribers, they find that they're 25 to 55 years of age, making a certain socioeconomical level. That's all they care about. They don't care how many numbers. It used to be, oh, we want to get with bloggers and vloggers that have 10 million subscribers and hits. It's all about hits and likes on Facebook. No. It's all about people who are going to walk into that door. Can they buy this watch? Can they buy this jacket? Is it the right audience? So they're getting very intelligent about it. By the way, the reason I'm even talking about this today is because if you're standing here, if you took the time, and I recognize you, hello, nice to see you. If you took the time to come here today, you are part of this mix. You are part of that influence. Same with Instagram. So, hell, I'm approaching 50, okay? I should not be on Instagram as much as I am, he said embarrassingly. But the reason I've done it is because the brands and the connection of the people have created that. So, I promised a little bit behind the scenes. So probably the greatest side effect of doing any of this is I've gotten to know the people that work on the film, which is fantastic. And a couple people asked. I met Daniel Craig twice. One was absolutely horrible, and the other was really great. The first time I met him in Tom Ford, it was an accident. There were two people shopping in there. It was him and me, my wife, and the manager. And the manager came up and said, "He's here." And I said, "Oh, Tom Ford's here?" He goes, "No, Daniel Craig's here." And I totally squinted out. And I went up to him and stammered something. I think I said, "Oh, I'm a huge fan of Tom Ford's too. Can I take a picture with you?" And he said, he looked at me and he goes, "I'd rather not." And I just a puddle, just awful. But then I said, "Listen, I respect that." We shook hands. He said, "I respect that." And we went on our way. 2 weeks ago, we were able to go to the New Yorker Film Festival. It's something that was a 90-minute interview with Daniel Craig, and I was able to get up in front of an audience and ask him a question about style and brands and what influenced him. And it was a great answer that he gave about the brands and the influence, because he's a clothes horse. He's a brand guy. I mean, I won't say the R word here, but he likes the R watches, and he loves Omegas as well. So that's one of the nice things. But I don't know if you all know this. The last 2 movies especially, Daniel Craig picked most of his clothes. Now, there is some wonderful costume designers that work on these, that go out and they cultivate. They go out to some of these smaller brands and they'll get a sweater and they'll get a suit. And imagine, if you will, a long table. This is how it looks. It's a room about this size with long tables with bathing suits, with polos. And what he does is he sits there and he walks over and he's like, "Oh, I like this a lot. I like that a lot." and he really picks out a lot of his own clothes. So, this jacket, I'm not going any farther than that. This belt, these pants, and these shoes, which really kind of don't go with this jacket, he picked out. He wanted a desert boot, which is almost disarming, if you think about it, worn with this type of blazer. He wanted a chino to go with this outfit, so he is choosing a lot of what he's doing. So when you see Tom Ford, James Bond 007, you might as well think Tom Ford, Daniel Craig, because it's the reason why they keep having Tom Ford in all of his things. So I'm going to end it here with a great quote, which I really like. One of the things I do like about Spectre is, "You're a kite dancing in a hurricane, Mr. Bond." Collecting luxury brands, accepting that these are part of a tsunami or a wave or a hurricane in this case, of just getting swept up into the influence is a very real thing. It's kind of why we're all not running for the door right now and still listening to this. But it's something to be embraced. It's something really fun because it's one of those experiences in life that's different and it's unique and it's memorable. So, thank you very much.
I just wanted to thank everybody for coming, and I'm really sorry that I didn't get a chance to kind of introduce myself at the beginning because I was we had a lot of clients come in right before the event started, so I was a little busy, but I think it went off well. And thank you to David for coming out and spending his Saturday with us here at the boutique, so kudos to you, sir. My name is Michael, I'm the boutique manager here at Omega, and it's nice to meet new people as well as our clients as well. So I just wanted to again thank everybody for coming out and learning more about it. It's so inspiring to see how easy it is to kind of live a Bond lifestyle that you may not think you would be able to, but it's just the small details that really make it all come together, and we at Omega feel the same way with our presentations and the things that we do for our clients to make that experience 100%. I think it goes hand in hand. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
We have a little treat as well. I'm going to go prepare